to everyone. If you can kindly mute your microphone, uh, that would be wonderful. If you'd like to, or if you're comfortable with us recording and you sharing your video, we're a friendly group here, so nice to have that face-to-face in these trying times. So our theme for today, we're going to pick things up a little bit from balance last time and talk a bit about speed. And hopefully, much like last session, we'll get some wisdom from some of the veterans in the sport and connect with some other amazing instructors from around the province. And like any good ski event, there will be an après, and we've got some great giveaways from our sponsors. We've got a gift card from Lululemon, $50 for the first prize. We have a $50 gift card from Arc'teryx, one of our partners, for a second prize. And we've also got a $100 gift certificate from Arc'teryx as our third prize. So big thank you to Lululemon and BC Adaptive, or sorry, Arc'teryx, for their continued support. For those of you that don't know, my name is Jeff Scott, and I am on the board for BC Adaptive Snowsports. I have been for 3 years now. I'm also the executive director for the Live It Love It Foundation, where we've done a lot of work with the Revelstoke Adaptive Sports Program and getting athletes out and into the backcountry. If you'd like to check out more of that, liveitloveit.org has a bunch of content there. If you have any questions throughout the session, I'd ask you to look for your chat bar on the right side of your screen. And if you can type them in there with the individual you'd like it directed to, that would be great. And we'll kind of play by ear if we do them at the end or throughout the conversation, depending on how many we have. If you can't find the chat box and you can find the reactions tab at the bottom of your screen, just raise your hand and we will get to you towards the end. So it is my pleasure to introduce Heather Bilodeau and Susan Hughes. Heather and Susan will be leading our technical discussion on speed, and I'm not sure there's a better team to do so. As most of you are aware, Susan Hughes is the technical development lead for BC Adaptive Snowsports. Her journey in adaptive snowsports started in 1983 with a visually impaired guiding experience. Since then, Susan has become a CADS Level 4 instructor, a course conductor, and renowned technical development specialist with unwavering support for our instructors. So big thanks and appreciation for you being here again, Susan. Heather Bilodeau is a giant in the world of ski instruction as well. Heather was a member of Canada's demonstration team for 8 years, and she was the only woman on the 1987 interski team. She has served on both provincial and national CSIA technical committees and is a level 4 CSIA instructor. Her and her husband Don owned and operated the School of Skiing and Snowboarding at Panorama for 26 years, and they've since passed that on and moved to Whistler. So without any further ado, I will pass the reins to Heather and Susan. You want to take it away?
Okay. Well, thank you and welcome everybody. So once again, we have people from across the country and beyond. So welcome Brent, and I believe Gord had registered. I'm not sure if I saw him yet, but coming from Saskatchewan. Also registered was Diane from the UK. And additionally, I believe that we have a few additional locations from within BC. Apologies if I might have missed anybody else, but it is so great to see you all. First off, true confession. I feel very much like an imposter speaking about speed. If we were to interpret speed as the end result, the goal, if you will, for maximum speed. So for tonight, let's focus on speed management and the concepts of slowing down, maintaining, and increasing speed, all of which is fluid and never static. For those of you who joined us last week for balance, there's a commonality there. There's nothing static about either of these concepts. In skiing and snowboarding, speed management happens at all levels, from beginner to high performance and racing, which we get to hear from Matt shortly. So there are a variety of factors that might influence our approach as instructors to speed management, including the type of terrain we're on, snow conditions like hard packed groomed or powder or icy conditions, and the weather situation. Is it blowing sideways? Is it snowing sideways? Or is it bluebird gorgeous? All of that might contribute to how we approach our speed management. Additionally, how then is our mental and physical well-being for that day? So let's explore how we might manage and develop speed as a foundation to skiing and snowboarding. So with that, I'm going to pass to Heather.
Okay. I want to start, if you don't mind, with one of my favorite quotes about skiing, snowboarding, three-tracking, sit ski, and it's written by Beard and McKee, who also write about sailing and golfing and other sports. And their definition of the sport we love is the act of catching cold and going broke while rapidly heading nowhere at great personal risk. That said, because we are dealing with speed today, Susan and I have had a discussion about that. Again, we feel like imposters. I feel like I'm wearing my full fraud syndrome here, except that we're covering harnessing, mitigating, and managing speed. And then when it comes to the thrill of speed, we're going to pass it on to, the real McCoy, Matt. So I want to be brief in telling you that movements in motion was a concept that was presented at the 1983 Symposium for Skiing, International Symposium for Skiing. And it was written by Andre Schwartz. And he was presenting what Canadians were developing in their ski technique, movements in motion being that primarily the lower body is doing orchestrated movements to facilitate the movement and momentum of the mass always down the hill. The reason why I give you that description is because I want you to picture on a piece of paper that you have drawn two S's. One goes from side to side, it's a huge S. Those are the movement patterns of the lower body. Just inside that large S is a shallower S, and that is the path that the line of momentum or the mass takes just inside the path of the skis. I'm going to refer to that a couple of times when we talk about turn shape. So as Susan said, movements in motion and the idea of skiing is that it's fluid, it is progressive, it's like a dance, it's like music, it's like good speech. Their turns are not separate from each other, they flow into each other. So given that, I'm going to talk about three concepts: harnessing, maintaining, and managing speed. So if we take, again, skiing, snowboarding, all sliding sports, they all involve speed. And those variables include, snow temperature, body compactness, slope, pitch, that sort of thing. And the three things that I want to talk about, aside from those variables, are turn shape, edging and skidding, and transition. So I'll go to the first one. And so if you're looking at a blue slope or a black slope, we're going to have them groomed so that you have a controlled environment. My idea is to give you an idea of what I call the spill zone. So if we assume that you've made a nice early transition onto a set of edges and you're bracing and carving and everything is beautiful and it's all built up to pressure and speed at the end of the turn, now what? How do you take that speed, that good speed? You're not going too fast, you feel in control, you're balanced in the athletic stance, your skis are gripping as they should. How do you take that from that turn to the next turn? I want to make it simple for you and tell you that the spill zone is never where the skis are directed. It's always slightly down the hill from there. And if you imagine that as your spill zone, then you're going to create a door well and put that door well slightly down the hill on a big turn, and imagine yourself then moving into that spill zone. So your spill zone never goes in the direction of the skis. It's slightly down the hill from that. That will help you harness what you've built up from one turn to another. That's number one. Number two is steeps. So if we go to steeps, how are we going to manage the speed? Because the steeper the slope, the faster you go. So imagine yourself on steeps and it's soft packed or powder. Often I have people surprised when I tell them they can skid, because asking someone to skid is almost like slurring at a cocktail party. People think, oh, edging is the be all end all. But if you're on soft pack and you do pure edging from one turn to the next, a World Cup skier will tell you that if you go pure edge to pure edge, you're going to go too fast. Even in a giant slalom or a slalom, you're going to see World Cup skiers manage, for example, Bodie Miller has a right-hand turn where he manages a slight skid at the top of the turn so that he can keep the proper line, and then a pure edge on the left side. You can manage your speed by doing some skidding on steeps, and it's not blasphemy. It's the only way to do it. So again, if we talk about spill zone, if you're doing short turns on steep terrain, you don't want to do a pure edge where you're directed too much across the hill. And if you find yourself going, oh God, I'm going too fast, how am I going to manage this? And you're traversing the hill, you may as well be the ship in the Suez Canal, because now you're stuck. You want to take your momentum after one or two turns and make the spill zone perpendicular to the side of your body, and make your spill zone a bit of a skid or a drift or an ironing of the snow down the hill. And because you're moving, we can manage the ship in the Suez Canal. You're moving a bit, there's a bit of a skid, you're keeping your momentum, then you can start another turn. So there's your spill zone on steep terrain. Then if we go to short turns, two quick more tips. For short turns, here's your guarantee. 4 turns in, you're going too fast. I have yet to do a set of short turns where I'm not going too fast on the 4th turn, but I think ahead of that. I think, oh, right, okay, going to be going too fast. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do sort of an old-fashioned scoop or edge set on about the 4th turn. Or I'm going to tell myself, okay, well, if I get going too fast, where do you go? You go to the back of the ski. How do you change that? You tell yourself on the 4th turn, I'm going to make a move with my pole that gets me more forward and in the direction of the fall line. I'm going to do that on the 4th turn, whether I'm going too fast or not, because if it's not the 4th turn, it's the 5th turn. And then you do a little bit of an extra turn where you press the ankle bone into the cup, into that little pocket in your boot, and you use the inside of the heel and you pressure it so that the ski, which is meant to turn more if you press on the tail at the end of the turn in your athletic position, don't get on the tail. If you do that every 4 to 6 turns, you will be able to manipulate your speed there. Same thing in bumps. In the bumps, every once in a while, you're going to get going too fast. Don't ski the troughs. If you ski the troughs, you're on somebody's bobsled track. Ski the top of the bump, ski the side of the bump. You'll land in the odd trough. And if you land in the trough, ski up the bump, manage your speed that way. Make sure that your body is countered as much as you can as you oversteer in short or on bumps, and you will be the stars you are. Susan?
How do I follow off of that? If anyone has noticed, Heather has the most amazing energy, and this is on Zoom. And I can't wait for you to join her in a session.
I had a beer.
What's that?
I had a beer.
Okay, well, maybe I'm drinking water. That's the wrong thing. Oh, well, what I do want to share, though, is an email that I received, and I did check in with that person to see that it was okay that I share that email. And so this comes from an instructor. Some of you will know her name is Lisa. She is from Sun Peaks. Lisa is a CAD certified instructor. She is also visually impaired. And between both Lisa and her guide, they've been skiing together for 5 seasons, I believe. And between the two of them, they are continually striving to improve their own skiing. So what Lisa said to me, she is challenged in managing her speed. And how can we help that? She says, and this is taken directly from her email. I'm going to read it so I get it right. She says, the irony is that the better technique I've got lessens the sound and thus the feedback regarding speed. She says, I guess speed is a visual thing because she feels that she can't see trees go by or other things that might be our cues for speed management. And so Lisa relies on other aspects, which is a very interesting concept, which I would also then challenge some of us then to take that as instructors to our students who may be visually impaired or students with other disabilities, that we have to factor in other aspects into the foundation of speed management that Heather really talked about. So without going into a session via Zoom, I think what I would just echo from what Heather said is really around turn shape. And you know, I don't have the depth of experience, certainly that Heather does, but if I can simplify that, if we can seek S turns versus the Z turns, that might get us a little closer to achieving some speed management. So without getting into you know, the details, and certainly on Zoom, I can't help thinking this is going to be the basis for one of our sessions at like the BCAS Summit, the BC Adaptive Snowsports Summit next season. And yes, that's a teaser. So absolutely stay connected to the BC Adaptive emails and the newsletters and find out when Summit will happen. It's going to be the beginning of December. And we will really work at taking some of the questions and the concepts over the last week in this, and we'll put it into an on-snow session. But with that, I think that it is really time to hear from Matt. And, you know, I think that Matt, as Heather and I said, you know, he's going to bump it up just a little bit. He'll take us to, you know, the thrill of speed. And with that, maybe Jeff, you get to introduce Matt, and he's going to take it away for us.
I'd be happy to. I would first like to thank you, Susan and Heather, for helping shape the foundation, because speed is definitely a component in skiing that you need that foundation before you take the next step. And interesting because it is something that is very visual, but as you increase your speed, it's important to listen to all your senses, touch. Yeah, and great points you girls both made. So thank you for that. It is now my pleasure to introduce Matt Hallat. Matt started skiing at the age of 7, and by 17, he joined the Canadian Para-Alpine ski team. During his time as an international athlete, Matt competed in 3 Paralympic Games, Torino, Vancouver, and Sochi. He also hit the IPC Alpine Skiing World Championships, where he had multiple podiums. So, yeah, high level indeed. Matt retired from racing April 2015 and turned his attention to developing the next generation of para-alpine athletes. Matt has worked his way up the sport system and is currently the para-alpine high performance director for Alpine Canada. So we at BC Adaptive Snowsports are incredibly grateful to have you here today, Matt, and looking forward to hearing what you have today to say on speed. I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. And Jeff, I also am a very proud BC Adaptive alumni. I don't know if I'm considered alumni, but I still feel very connected to the organization. I learned to ski here, I live in the North Shore, and learned to ski on Grouse Mountain, and soon thereafter moved my way up to Whistler and joined that program and went through the BC Adaptive team. So it's always feels like coming home. So first thing I wanted to say is thank you to all of you, because I know it's been a crazy and very strange year, and it doesn't seem to be stopping at the moment. So I thank you for your continued efforts and keeping people out and skiing and giving people the opportunity to get outdoors and just, you know, feel the wind in their face. I think that's probably more important now than it has been in a very long time. So first and foremost, thank you to you for what you do. Great points from Susan and Heather. So that you stole all my notes. I actually have nothing more to speak about. No, I'm just kidding. I've made a career out of learning to go fast, and since then helping other people learn to go fast. And so, you know, what does that mean, and you know, what is fast, and how do we teach people to push their own limits? I think something that comes with speed at some point for everybody is also fear, and they kind of go hand in hand, right? When you're pushing your own limits, you bump up against them, and you have to figure out how you're gonna tackle that, and how are you gonna go about that. And so when we get to an elite level and we start talking about speed, and we're working with national team athletes, and ultimately at our stage, we're responsible for going to major events and coming home with medals. So there's some high expectations as well. And so you start to play these two things hand in hand, speed and the fear of failure ultimately. And what is that like? And so the way I think of speed is, you know, first and foremost, you need great technique. If you can't arc your skis and you can't control the speed in some way, shape, or form, you know, in all different situations, in all different snow conditions, on all different hills, all over the world, with jet lag and fatigue and eating bad meals and eating some good meals, and with, you know, competition and everything that's going with it, you know, you have to put all those variables together. But the fundamentals of your skiing will dictate how fast you go. I cringe when I go to a ski hill, and you've all seen it, the guy or girl who's pointing their skis straight down the hill, and they're just seeing how fast they can go, and they're absolutely utterly out of control, right? And I cringe when I see those people, and they're going probably 60 kilometers an hour, something like that, right? So maybe 70 kilometers an hour. They're a big guy, but they're in danger. They're in danger themselves, and they're endangering everybody around them. And the thing is, what it takes to go 80 or 90 or 100, and I've seen people as fast as I've seen radar guns on people up to 130. These are, keep in mind, these are Paralympians, amputees, or guys in sit skis or whatever it may be. Their technique is flawless. They do not look out of control. They're pushing the boundaries of what they're capable of, and they're pushing the boundaries of their equipment. And we take going fast to kind of the nth degree. And so how do we get there is everything that we do. Ultimately, we don't show up on day one of our season and push people out of the start gate and say, okay, go fast. We build and we spend over 100 days of year of skiing to build our way up to that point. And every year, no matter how much experience or how much success you've had prior, we start basically at ground zero again and build it back up. And I think of this a lot like driving your car. If you head out on the street and let's say maybe you haven't driven in a few months, it's COVID and you've been locked in your houses and you haven't gotten the highway in a while. The first time you go 50, you're probably pretty comfortable, right? And you're driving around and life is normal. But maybe you jump on the highway and you have to step on it a little bit and going 100, and maybe it's a little narrow and there's people dodging in and out, and maybe it's a little bit uncomfortable. If you start driving long enough, you get kind of comfortable going that speed. You get on a faster highway and you go a little quicker, you go up to 110, and it's a big difference all of a sudden, right? You notice that you've increased your speed. If you're, in British Columbia and maybe there's no police around, you're starting to go faster and faster and faster, and you're getting more and more comfortable. You push yourself and you get to a place of being uncomfortable, and then you start to adapt and it becomes a bit more normal. And so when we're developing athletes to go faster and faster, this is the same principle, right? And we build our way up to that point, days and days of training and ensuring that the safety and the things around them is prepared to do so. We're not doing this on open terrain with other people around that we could hurt, and we're doing it with all of the precautions of netting and safety netting and course setting that is appropriate to the level that we're looking for on that given day, in that given snow condition, whatever it may be. And those will adjust every single day, depending on what we get. But slowly over time, we can build and build and build. But it does, I go back to where I started in the beginning, starts with that foundation of good technical skiing, and Heather hit on a number of those points. Yes, it does mean your ability to carve. You have to carve if you're going to want to go fast. But as she said, when you're getting into steeps, you have to be able to control that speed. And what I would say is maintain that speed. And where people start to separate themselves athletically at the very highest end is where things like physical fitness come into play. How strong are you, right? Because if you can take a straighter line, yeah, you pivot your skis a little to control the speed, but you get back on your edges in the fall line very quickly, very aggressively. And that's what allows those athletes to capitalize on the steep hills and carry more speed onto the flat sections that will ultimately kind of win them their races or not. So I think what's interesting in sport and in skiing as you develop and as you go along is the basics that you learn, and this is true of many sports. The fundamentals are fundamental for a reason, and they provide a foundation for every athlete to continue to grow and to continue to build on. I will tell the story. I guess one of my more thrilling races was actually in 2009. It was the year before the 2010 games in Vancouver, and we were running downhill. So those of you who know Whistler, we were running downhill on what was the women's Olympic downhill, and this was this was the most challenging hill we'd ever been on. And as you come down and into what was called XY Junction at the bottom, where the kind of two downhills kind of came together, that was a speed that I had never gone before. And in training, we had no idea what it was, but that was a level that I was beyond my comfort zone at that moment. And there's a big right-footed turn at the bottom of that that we all had to learn to navigate. And it took me the year of the test event, several weeks of training, and then another week of training in the following year in 2010 to feel, I would not say comfortable, but I would say where I could manage my way through it and I could get my way all the way to the finish line. And so it's an incredibly thrilling thing to put yourself in that position and to train for years on end to get strong enough to know that I could handle that force in that moment and pull it through and then see that finish line in Vancouver and and then you still have to hit the final jump, which we again were not used to. So we had to really be prepared for that, and that was a thrill for me for a lifetime that I will take with me forever. And also of note, that was the time that I saw somebody hit 130 kilometers an hour in that space. So thank you again for what you continue to do. I'm happy to field any questions that you guys may have. Again, it's what you guys do is the step one for any athlete who's going to chase a Paralympic dream or become a skier for life, whatever it may be. And we need organizations like this to continue to flourish through the country. And I think we probably need it now more than ever. So much appreciated.
That was awesome. Thank you, Matt. It is always exciting to hear people talk about, the fastest runs they've had. 130, like I heard someone say, or read a quote, life is what happens on the edge of your comfort zone. And I was going to ask you if you found comfort in that section of the race. So interesting to hear that you didn't, but found a way to tap into those fundamentals and control yourself through it. And, what a rush that must have been. So thanks for sharing that, man. And yeah, cool to hear that you're an alumni. I myself, got back out on the slopes after my accident with BC Adaptive. All of the instructors here tonight and around the country, province, it's a unique community that understands the strength the mountains carry and enjoys sharing that. Shared experiences multiplies joys, and I think this group is one that understands that. To build the foundational elements for people to enjoy weekends in the mountains, or to chase Matt at 130 down a hill in Whistler. So thank you for all that you do for myself, the organization, to the instructors, to Heather, Susan, and Matt for sharing some insight tonight. We do have a couple questions. Let's see. There's one for Heather. Is Heather still with us here? Not. If Heather, if you could talk maybe a little bit more about the spill zone and how that differentiates, or what the difference is between tapping into that spill zone and spilling off energy. Don't think we have Heather anymore, so.
She's there. She's on mute.
There, but she's on
Okay.
mute.
If you unmute Heather, I don't see your video popping up. So, where are you?
She's you're still on mute, Heather, but she might have
Unmute.
There she
I
is.
unmuted. Good. Okay. I'm sorry, the internet where I am is a bit unstable, so if you lose me, I apologize. So the spill zone, I just sort of made that up today. I think it's that when I talked about balance last time, where the forces in skiing, if you've pressured the ski and you're resisting and you're against a nice edge that's at an angle away from you, if you ride that all the way through, that's going to take you to the side of the hill. And that's what you want to resist. Your body is supposed to resist the tension where the ski wants to take you towards the side of the hill. So that would be the spill zone. that would be the natural spill zone. Your spill zone is not to be there. It's to be slightly down the hill on a big turn. A slightly smaller turn, you're down the hill more. And if you're in short turns, your spill zone is right down the fall line. So when I say spill zone, I mean where your mass should be directed. And if you have to, on steep slopes, skid in the direction of there so that you keep moving so that the skis can change direction rather than going, to the trees or to the side of the hill. That's sort of my made up spill zone.
So Heather, it's Lauren here. I was the one asking about the spill zone. If you were talking about coming to making a turn and either keeping the energy into your skis as you deflect and turn, or if you're releasing some energy so you don't gain more speed at that point in time.
Yeah. Well, that would be on steeps. If you don't want to gain too much speed on steeps, the spill zone is going to be to sort of actually float, drift, slight and skid a little bit in the fall line so that you keep moving, and that spills your speed rather than traversing to the side.
Thanks.
If you were on a groomed slope in a pure carve, then your spill zone is that little door well that takes you at an oblique angle slightly inside of where the skis are going at the end of the turn.
Thanks, Heather. I haven't had a tip from you for about 40 years. I think at Mount Washington, when they opened up, you gave some kind of workshop for CSIA instructors, and I was in your group.
Oh, great. Well, nice to see you.
Thanks, Heather.
That's great. Thank you, Heather. And yeah, just cool to hear about the depth of experience in this group. It'll be exciting to get everyone together at our next event, whenever it may be, and share a little more in person. We'll do our best tonight, though, to wrap up. I don't see any more questions, no more hand raises. So I think